see is most relevant
Sure.
and take it away.
All right. Let me share my screen here. Hi. So can everybody see my slides?
Yep.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Yeah, I've been hugely inspired by this gathering, really developing a new vocabulary for thinking about a lot of the things that keep me busy for day to day. So let me just introduce myself. First, I'm a staff scientist at the Champalimaud Foundation in Lisbon, this new center for restorative neurotechnology. So basically, I spend most of my day building technology and doing some research. Um, and uh, I focus on what I call cognitive human AI engineering. So basically, I'm interested in how in engineering how humans can better interact with and control and respond to AI systems, as well as understanding the kind of future consequences that evolve through that continued or current hypothetical adoption. And the reason why I think this is interesting is because today's computing interaction is no longer about primarily, manipulating and interacting with isolated digital artifacts like we do in conventional human computer interaction, but communicating and interacting with these kinds of intelligent entities that possess some kind of level of synthetic cognition. And so I ask, what are for these kinds of new AIs, what will be the primary and necessary affordances that will allow us to best interface with those kinds of cognition, artificial cognition, and our own cognition? And so there's a bunch of technical questions that underlie that is I find interesting. And ultimately, I want this to facilitate human flourishing. And so, I kind of like to think of myself as a sort of philosopher technologist, or wannabe philosopher technologist. So, understanding or trying to find some guidance and a vision towards what constitutes human flourishing. And I think this, contemplative science space is really the place to find that. And so on the propaganda arm, I kind of focus on doing these kinds of art science projects, just concretely, some where you're interacting with an iPad and drawing, and you have this art therapist narrate what it is and trying to understand what it is that you're drawing. And then that gets transformed and it's kind of a playful interaction. Or another exhibition that relied on some VR elements. And most recently, a project I called Consonância, or, in Portuguese, but it's consonants in English. Basically, it was like deploying these phenomenologically inspired conversational language agents onto people's phones and collecting, people's experience with pain and suffering and giving them an avatar and then constructing a kind of social network around those avatars to see how they were connected in kind of an anonymous way via the avatars to each other. And that project kind of conceived of this as a kind of healing room. And on the applied side, I'm working on, what I call cognitive communication interfaces. So I work in this restorative neurotechnology context. So in that project, it's looking at how to um, build these kinds of rich AI interfaces for example, people suffering from something like ALS, or they're unable to speak. And then on the research side, I'm looking at how to, really have to understand what's going on in these kinds of AI models when it comes to parsing what's going, how should we understand these from like a cognitive lens? And that there, I'm using tools from mechanistic interpretability. I call this cognitive mechanistic interpretability. I have a plot there, but I'm not going to, I think I'm going to be really low on time if I keep on blabbering. So I'm going to really get into um, re kind of what I think is happening right now that if things are moving faster than a bullet train. And I'm speaking here as a technologist, and I think we look around like these agentic AIs are sort of the new rats of tomorrow. And, 2025 was sort of heralded as this sort of year of agents. And we see them now interacting with, all these kinds of tools that we're familiar with, whether Zoom or Gmails or booking flights. We're at the cusp of that. And, they're also at the cusp of being able to kind of go out and reserve tables, like make phone calls for us, control these smart thermostats, hail self-driving cabs. And what's also interesting that's happening now is sort of, what's these personalized AIs that are developing, like most recently with Meta's Project Orion, where you have this embedded AI in your eyeglasses, digital twins of self or AI personas, AI companions. These are entities that we're interacting with that ha kind of have their own behavioral ecology patterns and ecologies. Do we understand them as a separate class of actors in the world that have the capacity to understand, affect, and change humans? And finally, I also worked a bit in brain-machine interfaces. It's like we're using these, AIs to interface directly, getting readouts from the human brain. Um, and so, given all this is going on and my interest in technology, I ask, what is the guiding vision of what technology should be in our lives? Um, how should we answer that question? And um, you know, I think about this just very concretely, and in putting together this presentation, I just realized how philosophically on point Wall-E. Maybe most of you are familiar with this film Wall-E from Pixar, which is basically a robot concerned about humanity's future and goes to inspire a complacent human race to abandon their automated comfort and return to save their planet. Yeah. And the kind of flashbang in this film is when the robot sort of discovers this plant, uh, and then he goes and he cultivates and he keeps it. And I'm going to talk about these kind of like two, this flashbang and this plot of the movie, and sort of this dystopian vision of humans and technology. And I was looking for a way to phrase this in philosophical terms, and I was led to actually this fellow here, Martin Heidegger, and he outlined this idea in Die Frage nach der Technik, the question concerning technology. And there he creates this kind of um, dichotomy between two types of technology. Modern technology, which is conceived of this Enframing. So if we go back to this Wall-E example, they're completely divorced from reality. They don't eat food. They don't consume any nutritional paste, or they don't consume any real food. Um, they just suck down this paste. They don't walk. They're transported by these floating chairs. They don't interact directly with each other. They communicate through these holographic screens. Everything is automated. Their entire existence is automated. Every aspect of their life, their clothing, everything. Yeah. And so they are literally passive consumers, and their entire physical and mental existence is just in total atrophy, you know. And um, and so this enframing kind of captures this. It's like the world as a resource to be controlled, calculated, put to use, standing in reserve like a gas station. I'm just extracting these resources and plugging in, and it demands and extracts. It's all about utility maximization. It really hides the truth of concealing an authentic way of experiencing the world where beauty, mystery, and intrinsic value of things. And this was like to Heidegger as like the true ontological horror of what enframing was. It's like kind of evil that this, it destroyed nature. Not necessarily that enframing itself was explicitly evil, but it was, it was terrifying in the sense that humanity would forget being in itself, you know. And then, so it's really about a kind of worldview. And, what he, proposed as a kind of alternative in this framing, is this revealing mode of being, or revealing technology. It's a creative act. It's a poesis. It's a bringing forth. It's an actual creation, like a tree. I'm this is not without influence from actually discussions with Pavel in his work meditation. Is like he describes sort of work as this kind of planting a seed, growing and harvesting the fruits of things. And I like this metaphor of things because it gets to this essence of revealing. And so it's a participatory, it's a co-evolution, it's a dialogue, it's a conversation. It's a way towards seeing truth in the world, bringing forth a way of living together, a collaboration. Um, and this is not, sorry, I'm going to skip this slide for sake of time because I want to get to sort of what actually got me here is thinking about like how I think of what it is that I want from technology. But this is not without historical precedent either. The way we use technology wasn't really, right now wasn't, as um, it may be so complete and total now the way we think about using technology as a kind of utility maximization. But when I look at the early cybernetics work, from folks like Gordon Pask or Warren Brody, um, in the case of Gordon Pask, this example here with music color machine is where you had this kind of dialogue of a musician interacting with this machine, and the machine would take the sounds from the musician and then project a color, and that color would eventually kind of signal to the musician that it was getting bored, and the musician had to change key or something like that. And so it was a kind of like trying to facilitate this kind of dialogue, this rich interaction between um, you and the machine. And this was originally, like, when we think about smart devices, this was like the original smart devices. It wasn't like there to serve you and you on a whim of you want this, and then it give you right back. But it was a dialogue. It wasn't really what something was a priori specified as a goal, and it was really something that was emerged from the interaction. Um, so yeah, this is sort of where I find my philosophical grounding and what it is that I really want to achieve in my own work and with technology. And how much time do we have left actually?
Yeah, so I think just a minute or so to wrap up, unfortunately.
Oh, okay. All right. It's a science conference, so I wanted to get through some of my own scientific work, but I'll just give you a flavor of it and then wrap up. But essentially, I think about these machines kind of being capable of scaffolding our thought, and pushing us to places where we can be more creative. And so I'm looking at like very well-defined cognitive tasks that, really, well specified, and we can study in detail. I won't go through this work now because there's no time, but I'm looking at this kind of interactions and this kind of memory search task. Um, and basically, yeah, I'm going to skip that, but there's a there's a recent paper we submitted, um, detailing some of this work, and then looking at basically being able to extract that kind of cognitive behavior within these AIs, and then being able to control it to kind of facilitate richer interaction with these systems. And another paper um, that looks into specifically how to do that, and how to identify that in language models. And so I just want to wrap up basically with maybe, people, at the first day, Adam Goldstein, he talked about alignment, and this fell in this kind of class here in the upper right-hand quadrant of where we're talking about helpful, honest, armless systems, that kind of reflect sort of us, and our preferences and goals. And I just want to point out that maybe what we should be focusing on is a kind of like what we can call productive disalignment. Maybe the system doesn't have to represent us, but can push us or pull us in different places, that facilitate better, human exploration in creative realms, and this kind of revealing nature of that I pointed out in this framework from Heidegger. So I hope that made or was somewhat inspiring, or but I'm happy to answer any questions, and yeah, or if you see some connections with some things that you're working on, I'm really would be keen on listening to them.
Well,
Okay.
thank you very much, Eric. And I'm really motivated to look at those papers now. Do you have preprints of those posted anywhere, or do we need to wait until they
Uh,
come out, or how's that? How's the status of that?
yeah, they're brand new, so we'll be putting those two up on preprint servers very soon. Yeah, yeah. So
Great.
next month or so. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the typical kind of thing that we can post to the platform that we have now with kind of new work and new research is coming out. So looking forward to seeing
And
that there when
actually,
it's available.
we have a link to the reading list which should be editable, so it would be great if